Okay, so I'm muting you, Sherry, so. All right. Okay, hold on, let's see here. All right. Welcome everybody to our Tuesday morning meditation and spiritual practice. And this morning, I want to examine the quality of longing, the quality of desire to connect, to be present, and how that longing and that desire really helps fuel our practice. I want to quote from the second volume of A New Hasidism, which we've looked at before. And this comes from one of my teachers, Rabbi Nancy Flam, who was a major teacher in the Institute for Jewish Spirituality for a period of time. And she's talking in an essay in here called Training the Heart and Mind. And she says, in talking about her own personal journey, she says, the insights of Hasidism that I first encountered through the work of neo-Hasidic scholars and practitioners captured my heart because they resonated with something precious that I already knew, but only knew dimly. I wanted to claim that heritage of insight and embody it. And I think, you know, a lot of us, this may resonate for a lot of us, in that there are certain truths that we feel connected to, but maybe only dimly. You know, it's something that we get the idea of it, we feel the truth in it, and yet to live it and to be a part of it feels a little bit more elusive. The experience of the aliveness of God in everything and in everyone. It might be an idea that we can touch and resonate with, but to actually live that. And so there's a desire that some of us may feel that whatever insights or truths that inspire us, that there's a desire to live it and to have it be part of our lives. And that's really, it's that desire that really fuels our meditation practice. It's that desire that allows us to stay present and to bring intention and kavanah to whatever it is that we're going through. She also quotes a piece from Rabbi Nachman of Bratslaw's Tale of the Seven Beggars to illustrate this sense of longing and this paradox of in one ways being part of and connected and tapped into these insights of oneness that we're talking about, but at the same time being very separate from it and kind of being on the outside looking in. And before I quote this piece of Rabbi Nachman, I just want to give a little context that in the last 10 years of Rabbi Nachman of Bratslaw's life, he was a 19th century Hasidic master, great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. In the last 10 years, he only taught Torah and his spiritual teachings through stories, just through stories. And these stories mostly are these mythical kinds of stories about kings and princesses and evil forces and all kinds of really fantastic, incredible creativity. But in all of these stories, there were very deep Kabbalistic insights. They draw upon our mystical tradition. And so we can spend time studying these stories. Even at the first telling, they can be entertaining. I have a little fantasy that on one of our meditation retreats, when we get to do that again together, that we'll spend the whole weekend just immersing in Rabbi Nachman's story of the seven beggars, which is amazing, deep, as a frame for our own spiritual practice. So here's a little excerpt from the seven beggars. He says, the world's heart stands opposite the spring and yearns and always longs to reach the spring. The yearning and longing of the heart for the spring is extraordinary. It cries out to reach the spring. The spring also yearns and longs for the heart. Why doesn't the heart go towards the spring if it so longs for it? Because as soon as it wants to approach the hill, it can no longer see the peak and cannot look at the spring, right? When one stands opposite a mountain, one sees the top of the slope of the mountain where the spring is situated, but as soon as one approaches the mountain, the top of the slope disappears, and at least visually, one cannot see the spring. And then he continues, and if the heart will no longer look upon the spring, its soul will perish, for it draws all its vitality from the spring. And if the heart would expire, God forbid, the whole world would be annihilated, because the heart has within it the life of everything. And how could the world exist without its heart? And that is why the heart cannot go to the spring, but remains facing it and yearns and cries out. So very mythical kind of story of the world's heart standing opposite the spring on a mountain and the yearning for that. And there's a piece that's kind of tapping into that there's this truth about the paradox of human experience, which is that in some sense we can feel and know and long and embody in one way that experience of oneness, that alive vitality, that God presence, that which is the spring. You know, in some ways we can have moments in our meditation or in life where we're just awake to the vitality of the moment, the energy of the moment, and we are that one with that energy in the moment. That's that experience of the spring. But we can't stay there. We can't stay there. There's something about the dynamic of human consciousness and human experience, which is where we're separate, where we're able to analyze, we're able to take a step back. We're not just immersed in the beauty of a flower, but we can step back and appreciate and admire the beauty of the flower and comment on the flower and appreciate all of its beauty. So that kind of stepping back is a way of saying, you know, we have a distance from the spring. So the question is how do we stay in relationship with that spring? How do we not get lost in our mishigas? How do we not get lost in this place of, you know, we're in this pandemic where we can't do X, Y, and Z. We have, a whole story in our minds of what needs to happen in order for us to be okay, to feel okay. We can get completely lost in that. How can we stay present to continue to gaze at that spring, like the heart gazes at that spring and is able to see it and stay connected to it as we go forward? And that's really the practice in that, is to be able to touch into our longing, our desire. Because what we might notice, and we'll explore this a little bit more in our meditation this morning, is that very longing is already the awareness of the spring. It already is an awareness of the presence. That it's not something that we have to achieve, but the very longing itself is the knowledge and the reality of that in our lives. So going deeply into the longing goes deeply into that reality. So find a comfortable place that you can sit for a period of time, and get your body situated. We'll start with a nigun, a melody, and then we'll move into the silence. And I want to invite you that you can sing along with this in your home. Feel the resonance, the vibe, the spirit that's in the melody. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Ahi, 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 ahi. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Ahi, 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 ahi. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, yai. So if your eyes aren't already closed, let them close. Become aware of your body and space, noticing the connection between your bottom and the chair, the contact between your feet and the ground, the distance between the bottom of your spine and the top of your head, the way that your arms hang out of your shoulder sockets, the space between your ears, really sensing the entire outline of your body in space, the amount of space that you take up. And at the same time that you're aware of the sensations in the body, the shape of the body, let yourself become aware of the movement of breath, noticing the inhale as the body gently expands to make room for the in-breath, noticing that tipping point, that switching point where the inhale switches over to an exhale, and following the contraction of the body as the exhale, as the breath leaves the body, noticing where that exhale reaches its maximum length, switching over to an inhale, and just being present with the movement of breath, the way the body expands and contracts to make room for the breath. And opening to the reality that there is nothing else that needs our attention in this moment. That being here with breath and body, noticing the expansion and contraction of the body with the inhale and the exhale, is the only place that our attention needs to be. That everything happens here, that life happens here. That the presence is here. The more that we pay closer attention to the details of this moment, the breath, the body, the air on our face, the cacophony of sounds that surround us in our indoor space and in the space beyond. The more we sense the vitality, the energy, the aliveness of all parts of our experience. That everything is filled with depth, with presence. Every cell in our bodies, every sensation, everything. Allow yourself to tap into the desire, the longing for depth, the longing for peace, the longing for connection, the longing for awakening to our true nature, to ourselves as an expression of the God presence that fills the universe and beyond. Feel the longing to live the truths that inspire us. Let that longing focus our attention. Let that longing allow us to be even more fully here, to be even more fully open, to be even more fully committed to this moment. And as you let the longing, the desire, focus your attention, bring your awareness even more fully here. Allow yourself also to sense into the quality of the longing, the mystery of that desire to be at one. Open to the possibility that within that desire, within that longing, is pure awareness, pure aliveness, pure connection. That we actually are what we seek. open to the possibility that it's not each one of us as we define ourselves that is longing for this connection, but that it's God, God's self, the God presence that is longing for deeper awareness of itself through us. That this particular pattern and play of consciousness that we call ourselves is actually just the God presence opening to itself. I'm going to be quiet for a period of time and invite you to practice being here, to bringing your attention to all the aspects of this moment, breath and body, expansion and contraction, all the sounds, all the sensations. Nothing is a distraction. It's all part of the unfolding energy of the moment. So we can bring a sense of openness and awareness and presence. And at the same time that we do, to be aware of the longing in us that drives our attention more and more here. And if you find that your mind has contracted into a specific idea or a particular sensation or whatever it is, as soon as you notice, as soon as you're aware, oh, I'm here in this thought, in this experience, just allow your awareness to expand to include not only what you were thinking about or focused on, but the totality of the moment, and connect back with the longing for the spring, the heart that longs for the spring. Some of you may recognize that nigun, that melody, as something that we've done in our Saturday morning services or in previous meditations. I want to give a plug that there is a really very meaningful series on Netflix right now called Unorthodox. If you haven't seen it, it's a little bit about some of the dark side of the Orthodox religious community, but also has a real spirituality that runs through it. And that nigun, it's the Bobover wedding nigun from the Hasidic dynasty of Bobov that has a special place in the 4-session series. So if you ever get a chance to see it, I think you'll appreciate it. Okay, thoughts, questions, comments about the meditation or this being in touch with longing. We'll keep the spotlight here as we're on me as we're recording, but and streaming. But you can unmute yourself and just go ahead and speak.
Rabbi,
Hi, Rabbi.
I wanted. Oh.
How about Dennis and then Audrey? Go ahead.
Okay.
I was thinking about the Nagun before you did that last part about unorthodox.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking about is, I think about them as sort of made up on the spot. That may not be true, and it looks like it isn't. So my whole theory might be wrong. But there's something universal about them. Without knowing where it's going, I can go with you.
Yeah.
And that universal quality or characteristic is like the Nagun is inside of me, and I just have to start it, and it runs by itself. It's a fascinating process.
It's beautiful, Dennis. I appreciate you saying that. I experience it in a similar way, that I think, at one point, what makes these niguns last throughout time and these melodies is that they were inspired and came up at one point on the spot. Somebody in deep meditation or prayer, it just flowed out. And because it came from that deep place, there's a universality around it. The way that Carl Jung would talk about it is that there are archetypes, right? Archetypes,
Mm-hmm.
you have visual archetypes where one could look and see, wow, the in Tibet, far in the East, this culture of sand paintings and creating mandalas and these sacred shapes that are all in sand. isn't it fascinating that there are also a tradition of sand paintings in Native American tribes in this country that also have similar patterns, shapes, sacred geometry in some way? Well, you could make a theory that says at some point maybe there was a transplanting of that some Tibetan came over to a Native American and shared it with them.
Yeah.
But more likely understood is that that our psyches and our human experience, that there are pathways and depths and things that we share in common. And the same thing with a nigun, that you already can intuit where the nigun goes because it's already a part of you. It's already
Yes.
there. Beautiful. Audrey.
In this meditation, wow, that was very powerful. But, looking afar at the stream, I saw it both ways that, oh, wow, I want to get there. It's so beautiful. But I also saw it as when I got there, I realized how beautiful it was where I already am. That it's the same. There could be little stones and I might hurt my feet walking by the stream, or there could be little things where I'm at that bother me, or they both have the beauty. It just made me appreciate where I'm at.
Yeah, beautiful. That in using the metaphor, there can be deep fulfillment in gazing at the stream, and longing at the stream. Whether you're absorbed in it or whether you're separate from it, no matter where you are, you can open to that goodness. Any other thoughts or questions?
The word longing, Rabbi Kavod, is really something. I long for human contact and have to accept I don't accept it that well, actually. That's my struggle. I long for my friends and family that I can't be with. And my fear is that I might turn into a robot, and because now this is a situation without end. I mean, I know I'm always bringing up these anxiety-provoking thoughts, but this is where I am, and I have to learn how to be with this experience that is possibly, it's not without end, but in effect, it's here and now. This is it, and the longing is painful. So it's these moments, and I am able to appreciate what I have and what I see, what's around me. But I don't want to become without feelings as a way of coping, to shut down.
Yeah. Thank you, Maury. I think what's very powerful about this teaching is that it's pointing to that the longing itself that we experience is sacred, is beautiful, is powerful, is connecting. Obviously, when we're in the middle of feeling the longing, I think the pain comes from focusing on what's not present, right? We feel the longing, and we also are aware of what's not present, or noticing what's not present. And it's that not present thing that, the focus on that itself is what makes the longing so painful. But what if in the midst of the longing, instead of just being aware of what's not present, you became more aware of the longing itself? You felt more of that desire for contact, that desire for connection, and that maybe you even find that within that desire is already the seed of your own sense of connection. You can't long for what you don't know, right? Like, you can't long for something. Your longing for connection is already reflective of an awareness of a connection, and the pain is that, well, it's not present in this way that I want it to be present. But the fact that you long for it in the first place is already a place that in your heart itself there is an awareness of connection. And can you just go right into the center of that when you feel it? Go right into the longing, start to pay attention to that longing. What's the quality of it? What's the feeling, the desire? You know, how does it show up? Less on what you're missing, but more on the longing itself. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting what can unfold from that.
Because I don't want to shut down. I mean, that's precisely the point.
Yeah. Well, and that's the piece, is the longing is sacred. You don't shut down the longing. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's part of, it is the heart, you know, the heart and the spring. It is the heart that is going there. So it's just, can you be able to recognize the sacredness of that, of the longing itself?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions before we close?
Just for me to understand, so the sacredness of the longing, that's just a special thing about being human. And giving that the attention instead of what I'm missing, but that I have that piece of me. Is that
Yes.
what I'm understanding?
Exactly. That, you know, I think the desire to shut down the longing, that, you know, that Maury was saying she does not want to do, that desire is because I don't want to feel the pain that comes along with it. But, you know, there's a piece of things that, you know, we talk about what's bittersweet, right? Bittersweet, like maybe a good piece of a dark chocolate, you know, or something like that, right? The dark chocolate, there's a bitterness in it. Yeah, there's a little bit of pain that's in it, but there's also a sweetness that makes it so satisfying and enjoyable. And if we can tap into the sweetness that's a part of the longing, then it's not to say that there's not pain in it, that there's not the bitterness that's part of it also. But if we pay more attention to the sweetness in it, then it becomes like that experience of, for us dark chocolate lovers, you know, that's just, it has depth. It has depth. Beautiful. Okay, well, thank you everybody for a beautiful morning. A reminder, next week, I will not be here at 9 a.m. doing our practice. I'll be taking a break. But the last time that I was not here, I think Audrey and Ellen still, this Zoom room will still be available. And you know, you are welcome to organize, you know, still coming together to meditate. I think, the last time you did it, you guys, Ellen, did you use one of the videos beforehand? How did you do it?
Yeah, we used, well, Audrey, I guess you could answer also, but we used just the audio of the four worlds.
Yeah.
But Audrey, you and I can talk because I have Zoom also. And
Oh,